Hey, Jared here. So yesterday I did a quick demo, relatively quick demo, using Adobe Audition to do multi-track recording and mixdown. And today someone's like, that was great, but I don't have Adobe. Can you do it in Audacity, which is a really cool, free, open source audio editing program? And I'm like, fine. I use Audition pretty much every day. There are certain things that Audacity does really, really well. It just feels a little bit different, but it's free, so I have to completely support it. Now, I'm using my really good audio setup here to record this demo. So when I'm doing any audio recording here, I can't use my beautiful microphone that I'm sitting right next to. I'm going to have to use a microphone that's built into my webcam because I'm not using that recorder right now. So I'm going to use Audacity, and I'm going to use it to do a whole bunch of different things. Nothing too crazy, by the way. It's a very straightforward process. Most of audio editing is done as a form of design. Are you thinking about what it is that you want, where it is what you want, and then how loud it is that you want it? And if you think about it from those perspectives, most of what you can do is going to be fairly straightforward. Now, let's take a look at Audacity. I've got a big open project, and it's a project, by the way. It is a project-based program, which means that I can build multiple tracks and reopen a project made up of other audio files and come back to it later, which is pretty cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I realize that it's going to say that I'm capturing recording from the Mic J5. And the Mic J5 is my webcam. I have this beautiful 4K J5 webcam, and it's just is gorgeous webcam. And it's going to be mono, and the headphones, by the way, are the speakers that are in front of me, which is great because that should feed back into my microphone so that you'd be able to hear it when we're doing the playback. So you should get a good sound of about approximately what I'm doing here. Again, this is kind of a weird thing. It's always delicate to do demos of audio using the recording equipment that you're demoing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit record, and I'm just going to record some stuff. Now, when you record, it's going to start monitoring what I'm recording. So I can see what I'm saying. You can see that it's going up and down and up and down. And you can also see the waveform that's being built. Now, the good news is that it's not too loud. And you can change the sensitivity. You've got to be very careful about it. If it's too loud, if it goes to the yellow or the yellow and red would be about here. I'm going to try to yell real fast, and it's going to spike everything. La! You said it kind of spiked into yellow. It's really good here because I've got a really beautiful setup. It's probably not going to spike into red. But if it did spike into yellow or red, you have to be very careful to not talk that loud. The reason is that if something is too loud, the ends of the waveform gets clipped off, and you end up getting something that buzzes and can actually break your speaker and really do damage, and you can never retrieve it. The difficult part when you're recording audio is being too loud. The other is being too soft. This room has a lot of technology in it. There's a lot of hum in it. And that hum is what we call noise. When I'm speaking, I signal, and my signal is away from that noise. And the bigger the difference between your signal and noise, the better. But obviously, you want to be as loud as you can without going over. I can always make things quieter. If I don't like something, I can just reduce the audio. I can only make things so much louder. And if I did magnify the audio of this clip, it would also magnify the audio of the noise, and so that deep breath I just took would get louder as well. So I just recorded, and that's what it is. And again, if you see yellow, be okay, but red, definitely not. Let me hit stop. That was a nice minute 42, and if I click anywhere, it'll just start playing from that point. The noise, and so that deep breath I just took would get louder as well. Let me come over here. Magnify the audio. That was my deep breath. I'm using the space bar to stop, by the way, but anytime you just drop the playback head in the timeline, and it'll start playing. Noise. And you can zoom in and out of the timeline. That can zoom in, and I can zoom out until I can see everything there is. And there it is. Now, one of the things that I like to do when I'm working in audio is make the clip as loud as possible. And the idea is to normalize the audio, to magnify the audio to be as loud as the loudest point in this file is going to be. So everything's going to be relatively the same. And this gives me a starting point because I can always go from louder to softer, but I don't have to worry about how much louder I can make something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and hit Control A, select everything. And I'm going to go to Effect, Normalize. And what that's going to do, to normalize to negative 1.0, bam, and it magnified it, and now it's louder. And if I click up here, red. But if it did spike into yellow or red, you have to be very careful to not talk that loud. And you'll see that it goes into the yellow because I've now told it to. Let me come over to right before the loudest point in my audio.
Spike everything. La. You said it kind of spiked into yellow. Spike everything. La. You said it kind of spiked into yellow.
And that was okay because it spiked to -1, but it didn't spike beyond it. So there's no damage to the waveform here. And that's really exciting. So I've got this very loud audio file, which are the loudest it can be, which is great. Let me come over here and back to this. Now, when I zoom in, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and at some point you're going to start, looking at things. And what else can you do with an audio file? Well, the first thing is you can just highlight and delete something. Let's come over here and see, what does that say?
I can always make things quieter. If I don't like something, I can just reduce the audio.
Oh, that was a nice breath sound. So I can highlight the breath sound. I can grab the edge and say, no, I really meant from here to here. It's really nice that you can adjust it. And if I hit delete, that's going to delete that. It's going to just delete it off it, which means, by the way, it made it shorter. Sometimes you don't want to make things shorter.
The audio. I can only make things so much.
Sometimes, like this space here.
So
if I delete that, then that whole bit of time goes away. Maybe instead of deleting it, I want to make it quieter. And from that, what I can do is I can go to effect. I want to make sure you saw that it was effect. And then I'm going to go to amplify. And now instead of making it louder, I'm going to reduce it to negative numbers. And if you do that, then you're going to see it just went to silence. Maybe it was too much. Again, I'll do it again and go to amplify. And I won't go that crazy this time. I'll do like here. Let's go like there. And you'll see that it's barely there. But now
the audio of this clip, it would also magnify the audio.
So now it's quieter, but it was still there. And that's something you can do as well if you don't want to totally delete something. So you can normalize, you can highlight and delete. And then, of course, you can highlight a section and you can change the volume downward, all the way down to complete silence if you want to. Another thing that you might want to do is add a fade in or a fade out. Now, when you're fading in or fading out, one of the things that I like to remind you is that, again, it's going to be involving selection. So let's come to the beginning of our audio track.
It's going to start.
Let me get rid of that little bit of a spike at the beginning. I don't like that. I don't need it.
It's going to start monitoring what I'm recording.
So I'm going to say I want this to fade in. So I highlight that section, effect, fade in. And now
it's going to start monitoring what I'm recording. So I can see.
You see it kind of went up to full volume. And I can go all the way to the end. And I literally can do the same thing. I can grab this section of audio. And again, if I want to tweak it, I can just grab that edge and do it that way. And I can do effect, fade out. And now it fades out nicely.
And if you see yellow, it'd be okay. But red, definitely not. Let me hit stop.
Beautiful. Now I've got this. Now we may want to save this WAV file. Probably could have saved it already a few times over. I'm going to do over here in File and Export as a WAV file. MP3s are destructive. They use lossy compression, so you only save an MP3 when you're done at the end and you want to save the final output copy. But you always save the waves along the way. Waves is the way to go. And I'm going to call this as me talking to, because obviously I was talking before as well. And now I've got this WAV file separate. That's great. That's pretty much everything you need to know. Chop, delete, big, small. Now I want to come over here and I want to mix. Let me come over here and grab and import another WAV file. We grab one that I made yesterday called background music. This is really silly. It's just me making funny boopy noises. So it's going to sound like this.
Start monitoring what I'm recording. So I can see what I'm saying. You can see that it's going up and down and up and down.
And you can see, by the way, that I've got my original audio track here and I've got another audio track here. So now the question is, how do I move the audio track in a different space? And if you look over here, we've been using the selection tool, but down here, down and to the right, we have the time shift tool, which allows me to grab the audio and put it wherever I want. And then remembering that all I got to do is drop my cursor.
The difficult part when you're recording audio is being too loud. The other is being too soft. This room, there's a lot of technology in it. There's a lot of
and that's it. And I can keep adding tracks and I can keep doing it this way. Once I've done that, now I can have some fun. Now I can come over here. I can actually I can lower the gain so that
you can never retrieve it. The difficult part when you're recording audio is being too loud.
Again,
the other is being too soft.
That's why we made everything big in the first place. But over here, this is the gain for the entire track. So I could go the other way around, and I could say, I want this one to be quieter, and this one to go back up to 0, which is the original starting point, or something like that. And
you can never retrieve it. The difficult part when you're recording audio is being too loud.
And you just keep adding tracks. And the thing about it is that each file will be its own track. But if I wanted this to be afterwards for a moment, I can actually slide it all the way this way. And you're like, wait a second, I can't see. Just zoom out. It's all there. And I can slide it to go over that way if I wanted to. And I could keep adding tracks. It's very straightforward. Now, what do I do when I'm done? Well, I can save the project. And if I save the project, I can come back and work on this project. They notice they're telling you it's not an audio file, it's just a project. So I can come over here and do big demo project, and that's just so I can get back to it later. But when I'm done, I can do file, export as Wav, and that will export the entire thing. And it'll export everything, big demo Wav. Your tracks will be mixed down and exported as one mono file. Yes, that's what I want it to happen. And then it will do that. And that is that. That's how this works. So that's my quick and dirty demo of how you can do multi-track mixing in Audacity instead of Adobe Audition. Everything you need is right here. You just got to make sure you plan everything accordingly, step by step, put it all together, and then decide what you need to have where. Anyway, my name's Jared. If you have any questions or comments, you know what to do.